This video is probably a bit too late to really have any sort of relevance, but I like to take my sweet ass time, so here we are. Since Doctor Who Ranked for 15 won't be out for quite a while, I decided to do a series by series review until I am finally able to rank the entire era. With this, I'm going to be talking about the series' overall quality, the episodes, season-long arcs, and the Doctor himself. First, let's get into the overall quality. I do genuinely believe it's a good series. I don't think we'll ever get the quality of series 1, 4, and 5 ever again, but overall, I did like most of the episodes, and at the very least, their premises, concepts, and ideas, with the exception of one episode, but I'll get into that soon enough. I think the episodes all had a very big range of quality. Some were genuinely fantastic, while one could be categorized as bad. If we're comparing it to the previous era, well, the real previous era with, actual seasons and multiple episodes per seasons, it is most definitely better, but that's not saying much. The arcs were fine, but like with most arcs, Russell T Davies simply can't stick the landing, with Bad Wolf and Dr. Donna kind of being flukes, at least to me. And even then, they weren't that amazing and still felt kind of tacked on. Here we had two. Both were fine, but both kind of shit the bed in the final story. The one constant definitely seems like the TARDIS team with the Doctor and Ruby, both played very well by Ncuti Gatwa and Millie Gibson. I hate how we got another modern blonde-haired girl, but she ultimately won me over very quickly in the Christmas episode, which I will add was fine. Gatwa and Gibson were the best parts, though. Felt a bit ridiculous in many areas, too much for Doctor Who, but the team won me over, so that's good. But let's get into the specifics of the season. The episodes were very good for the most part, with the exception of one, as I keep saying. I won't get into them really specifically unless I really want to. That's what the Doctor Who Ranked is for, but I will touch upon some pros and cons of each episode. The unfortunate exception that I keep talking about was the first episode with Space Babies. Look, I don't like kids, so having an entire episode based around babies was a choice, and not a good one. It was just annoying and gross for most of it, even if the concepts behind it were decent. Not a total loss, as there have been worse episodes, but it started off the season on a not great note, and I was not surprised that a lot of people jumped ship after that episode because of this. Luckily, the rest of the season managed to stick the landing, for the most part. I thought the Devil's Cord and Boom were genuinely fantastic and more than made up for the short givings of that first episode. I love how in the Devil's Cord it played with the concept of omnipotent beings very well, and I liked how it broadened the lore of the Toymakers and others like him. As I've mentioned many times, I like that sort of thing. As well as feeling more epic despite its smaller stage. I even thought Jinx Monsoon did a good job as Maestro. I know people got uppity about the ending with the musical number, and I thought it was pretty hilarious that people got so bent out of shape over something so silly. But overall, really great episode, even if a little awkward in some areas. Boom showcased that Stephen Moffat can still write, just as long as he is under the tutelage of somebody else. It was a nice bottle-esque type episode and had a lot of thrilling moments. I still think that the Devil's Cord was better and still probably my favorite of the season. Nothing against the episode, I just like the Devil's Cord's concepts, ideas, and execution just a tad bit more. 73 Yards was good, but I felt it was kind of a slightly tweaked version of Turn Left, but not quite as good. It didn't help that Millie Gibson was definitely not selling it as a 40-year-old. Small nitpick, but still worth mentioning. Also, the questions that were posed in that episode were definitely not answered, even by the series finale, and not in a good way. Dot and Bubble was certainly another interesting one, mainly for the latter half. While the first half was kind of interesting with the mystery of it all, it was honestly more annoying than anything. But when you get to the latter half, and especially the ending, it more than makes sense, but it still doesn't forgive the annoying first half. I also like how Russell T Davies really hit it home with that ending. I'm gonna spoil it because it's definitely something worth mentioning for two big reasons. So skip to this time code so you don't get spoiled. Keep watching if you don't care or have seen it. obviously. But the thing I really love about this episode is that the characters don't change, because it's honestly more realistic that they don't change when they are conditioned to be essentially racist from assumed birth. Sometimes the bad people get to live because that's how the world works. People constantly tell you that being good will get you far and being bad will come back to haunt you, when that is pretty much never true at all. Will they die in the woods? Maybe, maybe not. But what Russell T Davies was trying to say at the end of the episode made this episode memorable, as well as actually nailing the character of the Doctor. How, despite everything, he still wants to save them, because that's what the Doctor does. And not, telling someone that the big shady corporation is really the good guy and the poor people trying to skirt by are really the problem. Yeah, no matter what, us fans will never forget that, Pete McTighe, so go fuck yourself. But even though it's only a decent episode as a whole, I think the latter half / ending really make up for it. But with that, justice for Ricky. In terms of Rogue, I think it was almost there, but there was some retreading of the family of blood, and I don't like the Doctor falling in love, especially with someone who he's just met. Which is ironic, considering he's played by an actor who condemned such actions famously in another project.
Hang on, you mean to tell me you got engaged to someone you just met that day?
I didn't like it with Rose, and I didn't like it with Rogue. That's confusing. Even if they had good chemistry with one another. But even then, it was still a lot of fun, even if the Bridgerton mentions got annoying after a while. With the series finale 2-parter, The Legend of Ruby Sunday / The Empire of Death, I think it had some interesting ideas, and I overall enjoyed myself, but I would be lying if I said it was a great ending to Series 14. First off, I don't like how they brought Sutek back. Sutek worked so well because he was a one-off. He was scarier and more interesting and more mysterious that way. I know Big Finish brought him back too, but I didn't really like it there either. Second, I don't like how they cock-teased us with Susan so much, even though Carol Ann Ford is now the only one of the original TARDIS team left, and they should have used her. I am partly glad they didn't recast her with someone else, Susan Twist, but at the same time, I wish they could have just used Susan rather than Sutek using her to bait the Doctor. Third, I get what they were doing for Ruby's mother. Someone who is an enigma despite being ordinary saved the day. I got that. However, it still felt pretty ridiculous, although worth noting that her name is Louise Miller. Connection? But that gets into the season-long arc, which I will talk about a little bit more specifically. I think Sutek being behind everything makes sense in terms of what Russell T Davies has done thus far with his comeback. He brought back the Toymaker and introduced Maestro. In terms of big, celestial, ethereal, omnipotent beings, Sutek seemed like the proper way to go. And I do like how he did manage to achieve his goal, even if his end was really ridiculous. Oh yeah, just yeet him into the time vortex. Again. But it's different this time. Why? Reasons. Okay, cool. But even then, I thought the build-up worked as well. Little bits here and there, and I liked that aspect. Then for Ruby's mother, I didn't really care, and you kind of forgot about it most of the time. So with that, not that great. I think the arcs were wrapped up rather poorly and were ultimately disappointing despite both episodes of the finale being rather decent and the little breadcrumbs being good build-up. Finally, we get to the TARDIS team with Gatwa as 15 and Gibson as Ruby. I thought they were easily the best parts of the Christmas special, as I mentioned before, so I was intrigued with what was going to happen with them in the long run. I thought they had brilliant chemistry with one another and were full of personality and felt like their characters from beginning to end. I think Gatwa is one of the few times where I've liked a more human Doctor along with 8. I think with how he cares about the world and people and the universe is very interesting. I know people make fun of him for crying so much, but I think it showcases to its usually pretty young fan base, that it's okay to do so and it is healthy, and I really like that. Kind of reminiscent of Inside Out, with its sequel just coming out a couple weeks ago. Plus, this was meant to be a Doctor that was a new beginning without all of the baggage of the last 6 Doctors with the Time War and all that. He showcased some darker moments, but I like how he is a more fun and fantastical Doctor. Ruby Sunday is another typical Russell T Davies cliche, but I do love her energy, and I think she brings something really bright to the whole shebang. She reacts properly, and she feels like a 3-dimensional character. Also, by the way, I want to quickly mention, the fucking memes for Sutekh have also been absolutely brilliant. If you can find any of them, they have been hysterical up until this point. They've been great. Way to go for the fans on that one, because the memes, whether it's good quality or bad quality, will always be chef's kiss. Anyway, overall, I do think this season was quite good. It isn't perfect, but is Doctor Who ever? It's a step up to what the quality was before, even if it has some wrinkles. I'm not going to act like I love the new direction that this is going in, but I do like it. And I think that's more than you can say for some of the other rougher seasons of the show. I would give it a solid 7 out of 10. See you later this month for another video.